Awesome. Welcome, guys. We're live. We'll see some commenters get in here. How's everybody doing today?
Awesome.
Pretty good.
Awesome. As you guys are joining the stream here, let us know where you're coming from. If someone's video, audio setup looks best, let us know. We're doing a little vote here of who has the best camera and
obviously it's Tyler.
And setup here. Vegas has a favorite in mind.
And the best face.
And the best face.
I like the Muhammad Ali background.
Yeah. I feel like we should talk about Jock just chugging on a Chick-fil-A over there. He's always on Instagram posting his workout, and he's over here chugging. What are you eating, dude? You eating French fries and soda?
Oh yeah,
you're trying to be healthy, bro.
Oh no. I work out so hard so I can eat whatever I want.
Hey, I respect that. I just noticed you got like the supersized soda, and I was like, dude, this guy's crushing right now.
The ultra big sweet tea.
That's a good way to be. He puts in work. I feel like Jock does like 2 a day.
Always posting,
Always doing stuff. We have some live people on. Put in the chat, guys, where you guys are tuning in from. We're gonna wait here like a minute to get some people in, and then we'll get rocking and rolling here. Got some amazing guests. And Paul, I forgot to ask, where are you at right now?
I'm in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Okay, you're in Idaho. I just knew you were traveling and stuff.
Oh no, this is my home. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, I'm done traveling.
Coeur d'Alene's awesome, man. So pretty.
Yeah, that's why we moved up here.
Tyler could get some really good drone footage up there.
Wait, are we live right now?
Yeah, we're live. We're just waiting for some people to hop on.
All right.
Yeah, we're live.
All right, cool.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I actually get like a couple comments at the gym because they're like, dude, because people come up to me randomly because they're like, dude, like your workouts. People are like, I steal your workouts all the time, and I remember one guy was telling me, he's like, I can just tell that you eat whatever you want though. He's like, you definitely. He's like, I can just tell. Yeah, because there's some guys who are like, you could just tell if they like take any like supplements or stuff like that too, because they will be like completely shredded. But if you see me, like I walk around with a gut.
Okay. All right.
We have Florida in the house. 1, 2, 3 sold cash. 1, 2, 3 sold cash. Joseph Noble, what's up, man? He's from Coeur d'Alene, Brookfield, Wisconsin. Awesome, guys. Well, this is recorded, so you'll have a replay of this, but welcome and thank you for joining the InvestorFuse by Carrot follow-up mastery panel. My name is Carlos. I have the privilege of being joined by some amazing real estate investors here to talk all things follow-up and acquisitions with you guys. My goal is to have a panel-style discussion, very low-key, around acquisition and follow-up. That includes strategy that you guys can implement like right after this call or right after you check it out. And then maybe some philosophy that you and your team bring to the office and talk through for some potential changes that you guys make in SOPs and how things are structured in your business currently. I'm going to say this a couple times. Joe Noble, Robert, if you guys are on live, send questions through the comments. If we don't answer them right away, we'll try to get to them towards the end so you could at least catch it on the replay if you're not able to hang out the whole time. And then to make it as efficient as possible, if it's cool with you guys in the audience, I want to intro everybody on the panel, have them give like a quick intro of just what their business looks like what marketing they're doing, what their acquisition teams looks like, just so you have context for the rest of the panel discussion as we go through. And then I'm going to ask some like group questions to everybody because we have full-time real estate investors. We have Paul who works with a lot of real estate investors on their follow-up sequences and copy and things like that. And really just want to be as helpful as possible for you guys. And we'll have plenty of time to open it up for Q&A and just talk about some other stuff like popular topics in real estate investing right now, like use of AI, pretty popular combo. Market, what's going on in the market, how that's affecting property values, how that's affecting and impacting seller and buyers. So to intro the panel, I'm going to kick it to you guys. We have some familiar faces on here, especially those of you guys who've been on like Carrot streams before, InvestorFuse streams before. If you guys watch our podcast, you guys know some familiar faces here. So let's start off. We got Mr. Tyler Ford. I'm going best video quality podcast studio. I'm going top bottom. No, I'm just kidding. Tyler's in his own tier. He's out of Tucson, Arizona, Carrot Hall of Famer. I had the pleasure of hanging out with him this summer for a day at the Limitless Expo in Phoenix. So Tyler, man, tell us a little about yourself and what you're doing in real estate right now. Just a brief intro.
Cool. Yeah. Tyler Ford, Tucson, Arizona. I've been buying and selling for 30 plus years. I bought my first foreclosure right out of college. You name it, I've tried it. That's kind of what led me to Carrot, because I was getting my butt kicked by a lot of the big players that were spending tons of money on pay-per-click and direct mail and all those kind of things. So decided to go all in just on organic SEO. And that's when I flipped over to Carrot. And again, everything I do is all about organic SEO. I don't spend any money on direct mail or pay-per-click or anything like that. My average cost per deal, a lot of people don't believe me, is probably $250 to $300 per deal, just because I don't really spend a whole lot of money other than putting all my efforts into just creating content and organic SEO. And we generate enough leads to probably do 1 to 3 deals a month consistently. And that's all I'm really after, just because it's myself and my wife and don't really have a big team. I did, thanks to InvestorFuse, I was able to solve one of my biggest challenges. And being in Arizona, I like to disappear during the summertime, and just didn't really have a CRM that could help facilitate that. So now I brought somebody in, and anytime I want to take off, I just flip the leads over to him and he works them, which we'll get into. And that's one of the reasons why I love the CRM and InvestorFuse, because it allows me to do that. Amazing, man. I appreciate it. It's cool to hear. Probably some people are having some light bulbs go on. Tyler's spending on a deal $250, $300. That's less expensive than some people are paying per lead for inbound if you're doing Google pay-per-click, depending on the market. So that's amazing. Appreciate the kind words there, Tyler, and excited to hear more about your operation as we roll forward. Next, we got my man, Jock Pierre, aka Big Money Jock from Atlanta, Georgia.
Who gave him that nickname?
How do you come up with that?
This is long standing. This is long standing.
All right.
But yeah, guys, my name is Jock here. I'm located here in the Metro Atlanta market. So I've been in the real estate investing space since 2019, so about 5 years now. As far as our team size is, we're running a lot more leaner and efficient right now too. I know me and Brandon helped on a couple of calls in this past year too. And I think that's kind of just like a segue into like just what me and Carlos were having a conversation about, of as far as anything that I talk about today is going to be 0 to 1 implementation and current things that we're working on, that we're currently implementing in our business, or we're working on implementing into our business right now. I would say we've had a massive turnaround in the past like 2 months. So right now we're like halfway into the month, and we already have 15 deals on board right now, which is pretty good. But a lot of it is going to be some key points that we're going to be talking about on how we got to this point.
Amazing. Thank you, man. Yeah, I know we have some good stuff lined up for that. That's going to include like team management, putting people in the right place, right person, right place, everything like that. Next up, we got Mr. Paul DeCampo, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho's finest. What's going on, Paul?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, appreciate being on. So yeah, first of all, I'm not an operator like all these guys. So I'm not an REI operator. But I have back in 2015. That's when I started, and I was flipping mobile homes, door knocking, foreclosures, flipping land as well. I started a land flipping business, volume business. That went well, but I left for various reasons, and I had a lot of little pumpkins growing, so I had to snip some, and kind of fell into I just fell into copywriting as a full-time career. Started taking a lot of clients, mainly all in the real estate space. Anything from coaching, service businesses, and developers, land developers selling hotel packages via mail, managing email lists for 50,000 plus students for coaches, and today created a little service business, little offer that helps investors create drip sequences, follow-up sequences into their CRM. So I've worked with a lot of InvestorFuse clients, so that's why I'm here, and so including Jacques over here, so yeah, implementing everything I've learned, all the marketing, all the sales pipeline philosophy and implementing a solid follow-up system. I don't really call it drip sequences because it's more of just a process of following up. So that's what we install into people's systems. So
amazing. Yeah, and guys, feel free to connect with Paul. What's the best way to connect with you, Paul, just so people don't have to wait to the end of the call? We have a bunch of InvestorFuse members. I'm sure Carrot as well, but we have a bunch of InvestorFuse members that use Paul, works with them very, very well, gets their sequences all dialed in. I think we may be talking about one channel for sequences that you can use that Paul has had success with this year in direct mail, which we now have in InvestorFuse as well.
Yeah.
So you have those leads coming in from Carrot. Leads come in from Carrot. You're managing them in InvestorFuse. Then you could hit them with text, ringless voicemail, email, and now direct mail pieces, which is cool.
Yeah, which I think is going to be huge. I think the whole new SMS thing. So yeah, I started adding that a direct mail component to actual follow up rather than I think a lot of people focus on direct mail being the front end type of thing, but if you're like me, if you're a Dan Kennedy fanboy like me, and you listen to a lot of other people, Russell Brunson, Frank Kearney, they might seem like all digital guys, but all of them do use direct mail on the back end of things to their customer list. So we spent all this money up front to generate a lead, except for Tyler here. Got the magic finger of SEO with $250 cost per deal.
That's amazing.
Others who are spending $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 if you're in LA per deal. You're spending all this money up front, but you're not spending any time or money on the back end of things to convert those leads. So I'm putting in direct mail into as a piece, an actual like follow up mail, not just like, hey, you want to buy your house again, but more of we've connected, we've spoken, where have you been type of fee. So.
100%. Well, cool, man. Excited to get your feedback and kind of what's been working for not only you, even interesting perspective of working with clients all over the nation and really getting into their follow-up processes. So excited to hear from you on today's panel. Last, but certainly not least, my man, Brandon Pedersen, aka Papa P. He co-hosts Let's Talk Real Estate from Lakeland, Florida. Papa P, how we living?
I mean, I'm a little upset because I thought you said you're doing this in order of quality of camera, and I feel like my camera is not as bad as to be last place.
No,
but I'll take it and I'll roll with it. It's okay, man. I forgive you. But I've been doing this. I've been in real estate 13 plus years, 13, 14, almost 14 years now.
Yeah.
Primarily wholesaling since 17, probably something like that. I've been doing a lot of it, and we were very heavy on outbound. That's where I made all of my money. It was, obviously initially cold calling and texting, then in direct mail. We then went all in as texting got more difficult a few years ago. We went all in on cold calling, built our own little call center. And that was the primary driver behind all of our leads. We switched over to IF3, which really made it streamlined to run our virtual team. And have all of our follow-up specialists and acquisition people all inside that platform. Now we're kind of revamping as we're focusing more on quality than quantity. So we're actually going to be slowing down and phasing out all of our outbound and going into inbound leads only. So we're doing a rebranding and revamping stuff where we're going to be doing just all inbound leads. And then, if you watch the podcast or Carlos, I've been going heavy into mobile home parks, which then has a whole different type of follow-up and lead gen because it's a different process and a different lead conversion time. So we kind of go after that. And that's mainly where we're trying to pivot into is that higher quality, higher dollar amount. And then obviously the buy and hold with the mobile home parks. So.
Very cool. Appreciate it. Hey, Scott. Scott's chatting and said, hey, everyone. Awesome. So let's do this, guys. I know you guys touched on a little bit. Maybe we can expand briefly on each individual operation. And then we'll kind of go into some group panel discussion just on a list of questions, some stuff that we have to roll through. And then we'll take plenty of questions from the audience. Again, guys, feel free to comment in. We have a team that's rolling. We already have a question for Big Money Jock. I appreciate that. So let's start with Jock, actually. So Jock, here are the questions that I have, and feel free to break this down a little bit. Someone asked for you specifically, so we'll roll with you first. So break this down a little bit more in depth to add on to the intro that you just gave, but give us an idea of what your team looks like now and how you guys are generating seller leads.
Yeah. So right now it's So I have one person in acquisitions, and then on top of that, it's also me as well. We have one lead manager. I have one executive assistant who's also operations manager. And then we have our 2 texters as well. And we're currently hiring for one more ISA as well. So we've pretty much, so I'll just be like fully transparent too. Like when me and Brandon hopped on a call earlier this year, I was definitely a lot more bigger, but now us being smaller, now we're producing a lot more and we're operating a lot more efficiently as well.
So much better, dude. It's so less stress. You focus on that quality. You know what I mean? The quality of the assignment fee and the deal itself.
Yeah, and the team members too. That's that's a big thing I really learned. Like a small, like everybody on my team operates at a high level. Like I have to do very little micromanaging. And honestly, it's just been a game changer for us. We're the most efficient that we ever been since my entire 3 years doing this.
How hard was it to get over that mindset though, bro? You know what I mean? Like the big to what do you call it? Efficient, we'll say.
I would say it was the thing that held me back realistically was when I needed a position filled in the past, I would just fill it too fast. The hurdle I had to overcome was actually slowing, especially, and this was after I read How to Build the Organization. But Don Winter, he talks about how he dedicates 40 hours just to fill one position in his company.
Wow.
And then he talked about it because he said there's, and I've experienced it too, where you make a bad hire. A bad hire can literally cost you $50,000 in actual money or in projected. And I lost on both sides, where from bad hires and stuff. So the hurdle was just really slowing down. And then the other side of it too, just I think that was another thing that me and Brandon talked about, was me really stepping in to the business, not not working on the business, but really being that person, that go-to person. Because I know Brandon was telling me he's on a dial every single day with his team. And honestly, if you look at a lot of the guys who are killing it right now, and Sharper, they talked about it too, but you couldn't operate in this market. You can't operate from an owner mindset. You have to be in the trenches with your team. That's the only guys who are doing really good are guys who are in the trenches with their team right now.
Amazing. And that's what we're trying to extract, guys. I think each person obviously has really good perspective, but you could be on this call and you could take away one little nugget or a philosophy behind why someone's making moves that they do and really benefit from it. So Jock, one of the biggest leverage points for him is just having the right people in the right seat. And that sounds like doing more due diligence in the hiring process, and then also getting in the trenches with your team, calling sellers so you can see hey, this is how much I'm able to call in a day. I expect you guys to be able to do 70-80% of this. So excited.
That's it. Because if you don't and you're hiring out, it's different when it's in office, but if you're hiring out to people, the most common thing, and everybody knows, is, well, I'm working hard. Well, that's it. I got voicemails, or the leads are bad, or whatever this is. And they're like, I dialed all day long. And when you really do the math and you break down their talk time and their dials, and you're like, well, man, I do 4 times that amount in a day. Don't tell me I'm dialing right there with you. I could do that. Now you actually have a basis to stand on, because that was the bullshit. Sorry, I don't know if I can. That was
producers in the ear. We'll edit that out.
That was a lot of the commentary I was getting from people, and it just bothered me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Jock, so talk briefly about how those leads get processed from a role standpoint. So those leads come into InvestorFuse. Who's touching them, and then maybe some general seller lead scenarios they go through. You get a hold of them, you don't get a hold of them. How are you presenting? In general, how are they getting offers? How are you getting those across the finish line? And then also, what exit strategies are you using? Just to kind of put that in one fell answer there.
Okay, then I'll break it down in 2 different ways. But it'll be tying together. But there's ways that we're currently doing it right now, and there's a 0 to 1 of what we want to have our process to be by the end of this quarter. But if I didn't talk about it, so our current marketing channels is texting and PPL, so which is pay per lead, services, motivated lead, need to sell a house fast, or ISP to lead. But we mainly only use need to sell a house fast. So as far as when a lead comes in, it depends. So if it's a PPL, the lead comes in, it's straight to either me or my acquisitions. So we treat it with a sense of urgency. So it's that whole thing, we call within the first 3 minutes if we can. Get feedback reports over to Chelsea, who's my new executive assistant / operations manager. She just messaged me. She just said, "Oh, you just promoted me." But that's the goal with her. But get feedback to her. Now, as far as the text leads, we've really been trying to focus on more so quality, but then at the same time making sure that we decrease that speed to lead. And so one thing that we've really been focusing on is the communication between our texter and our ISA. So our ISA is who's going to be qualifying those text leads. But one thing that we're doing now, and I'm not sure how many people are doing this, but when it gets pushed over to IF3, if our ISA is not able to get them on the phone, she also notifies our texter as well. So then the texter can send a message directly in the platform to the lead. Saying that, hey, we gave you a call at this number, because what we were noticing too is that people will reply to one. They'll reply, especially if we pull up our launch control account, a lead's on a drip sequence for 3-4 months, and then they find a reply. Well, in their head, they kind of remember that number. Mm-hmm. So what we're saying is that when we will move them to another platform and they're getting a call from a different number, they're not inclined to message. They're not inclined to pick up that person's phone call or even reply back to. So we've been doing that. That's actually been helping our process as well.
Let me stop you right there, because if you guys are taking notes that are listening, that's a hack that can just help you in your conversion right away. It's something that's logical and makes sense, obviously, but it's not even something that I relay to people. If you text somebody, let's use the launch control example. If you're doing text marketing to prospects and you're hitting them, you could do the best job in the world of setting expectation with that seller, saying hey, thanks for talking to our marketing team. You're going to hear from our acquisitions team at X smartphone number, whatever phone system you're using. If they don't hear from you, you should be able to contact them. Or your ISA, your lead manager, who's ever doing lead intake, should be able to contact them. If they're not, get back in that lead gen tool and either text them again and say, hey, our team tried to get in touch with you, or the dialer, whatever number you're communicating on them. Make it easy for them to see that in their phone. Because if it's text, they're going to have that phone record. They're going to be able to see the message. And if it's a call, they'll have it on their call history. Mike Borger's in the room. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, just to even touch on that, we actually just, with that process, we just, Dennis just locked one up yesterday, and we implemented that same process on the guy. And the guy, he replied back to our texter on, I think it was either Friday or Saturday. And it was where they did the same process. They communicated with each other. He didn't pick up the first time. She communicated with texter. Then he picked up again. And then she got straight to our acquisitions and had that proper handoff as well.
Yeah.
So that's essentially how that process is working for us right now.
Okay, amazing. And then continue to keep going, though. I know we were talking through lead process there. I just want people to take note on that one thing. That could be the one thing that you take away from this call to help your team out.
Yeah, and then just as far as what we're looking to further improve with this process is we got each member set up on Calendly as well. So our goal is to essentially start using Calendly, when we send out the calls to homeowners, we send them a text message saying, hey, listen, if I called you at a bad time, I understand. We want to talk to you in regards to your property. If you feel free to schedule a call directly with us at your own convenience. But basically, we want to see if that's if we can help increase conversions that way too. Because obviously, if we're calling people at work and stuff like that too, and everything, and it's not a priority for them to even hop on the phone with us, we would still want to help give that sense of control. So we're okay, if they're able to book directly from Calendly, that'll be a great help. But the reason why we even started doing that too was to help increase our appointment conversions as well. Mm-hmm. As appointments, we were noticing the difference between the appointments set versus appointments completed, and we were at a team meeting okay, what's going on? They're not picking up the phones. Mm-hmm. At the time we told them to. I was okay, well, and then they're Calendly. Well, now we're going to start basically booking those appointments directly through Calendly and uploading their information, because through Calendly you can have all types of automation set up to where they do the email, text, and everything of that nature too. So that's kind of where we're looking to make sure we implement that. Now, as far as exit strategies, a big thing that has been a game changer for us is we're mainly a novations company. That's just kind of what we primarily focus on as far as the exit strategy. especially in our market, because sometimes it's kind of easy to get stuck with property if you buy it. I got stuck with one. It's just, but just to help mitigate that risk. But what's been able to help us increase our efficiency is the fact that previously I would keep it in-house as far as our novations and trying to I would literally hire like inexperienced real estate agents to come work directly for me. What I realized the gap in that, especially if you're doing novations, biggest gap is that you have to teach them. And I'm like, okay, well, you're the licensee. Why am I teaching you how to do your job? And then I'm like, okay, so they don't know negotiations. They don't know. So I mainly had order takers. This time around, I hired an experienced agent. We pay her a flat fee. And I mean, dude, she's been a major game changer because she's been taking care of our transaction coordination. But even on our deals, she's helping us add in an additional $5,000 to $10,000 on each deal with her negotiations as well. And the second we hand it off to her, it's pretty much like any buyers, she knows how to put them out. So it's allowed us to really step in and focus on acquisitions, which is why we've been able to increase our conversions.
Very, very cool. So oftentimes with like marketing guys, or really a lot of things in life, you're testing something out as like an experiment, seeing how effective it is to a certain degree, and then making an educated decision off of like, do I want to continue this, or do I want to kind of pivot and make an adjustment here? What Jock is doing is something that I'm seeing. Let me know in the comments if any of you guys are doing this. What Jock is kind of implementing now, where you give the seller an option, like through a Calendly link or some type of booking service, to book a phone call or a video call or whatever directly. I'm seeing some people that have started doing that this year, maybe even tail end of last year, and having success with it. So maybe take note. If you guys are taking notes, maybe that's something that you look to add on. And that's something you can even put in like an auto response text from InvestorFuse, an auto response email when a lead comes in from Carrot. That's an SOP you give to your team, maybe who's doing lead intake. So another little thing there, I want to make sure you guys are picking up like the little things that you can just add a little tweak, see how it works for a quarter, and then either keep rolling or make adjustments from there. Super helpful, Jock. That was awesome. Let's go through the other guests here, kind of like that same exact thing, and then we'll roll into some group questions. So, Mr. Tyler Ford, if you could expand on, I know you said we've talked about your cost per deal is insanely low, small, lean, and mean team, but if you could expand on that a little bit, what your team looks like today, how you're generating leads, how those leads get processed once they come in from mainly Carrot, other tools into InvestorFuse, and then exit strategies that you're doing right now.
Yeah, so for me, it's always been lean and mean, operating in a high level and a low cost per deal, and just trying to keep expenses down. I learned the lesson the hard way, because in 2008 or 7, 8, 9, the last meltdown, I got hammered and literally lost everything and had to start from ground zero. So this go around, I feel this market's starting to change at any time. The wheels could come off. So I just don't want to get caught in the same position that I was back then. So I tend more on the conservative side. So keeping things lean and mean. All of our leads come in through organic SEO. And recently, it wasn't necessarily a hire, but I brought in an acquisition guy that's a seasoned agent that really knows what he's doing. And we've structured it to where he's incentivized based on, we put together a nice working document, because he's a licensed agent and I'm a licensed agent as well. So we go at things a little bit different, where we give our leads options. And a lot of times we'll give them a backstop where we're actually trying to get the listing. And he does a really, really good job at getting the listing. And then worst case scenario, if it doesn't sell in a certain amount of time, they've got this backup situation where they know they can get a cash deal and close quickly. And so, we work it a lot of different ways. So we go at it just trying to do what's best for the person. I mean, we always want to buy, but we're getting a lot of, in this hot market where we know that people can list their home and get it sold quickly and net more money. We get quite a few of those when we're working the leads. So our leads come into InvestorFuse, and then I'm like like everybody was saying, I'm in the trenches working the leads. I know how to work them. And so Austin is my acquisition guy as well. But the nice thing about InvestorFuse and the CRM, it gives me the flexibility to come and go and know that when I'm gone, there's somebody there
number
working
one
the leads.
Camera.
When I flip, because in InvestorFuse you can switch it to where you want the leads to go to. So that was my biggest frustration and challenge that I talked to you early on when I came into InvestorFuse, because there's times where I want to just disappear, and so that's how we work the leads. But again, it's just everything. I mean, I've got my CRM, I've got Ring Central, I've got, in terms of my Carrot. Outside of that, I don't have a whole lot of expenses, and just went all in on SEO, just keeping it lean and mean.
Amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, in today's market, which we're going to talk about once we open it up to kind of more group panel, got to be presenting more than one option to a seller. That's just low hanging fruit. If you're just doing cash offers, maybe some of you guys are out there doing that. It's very much an uphill battle. So Tyler, in addition, just to go all in on getting leads really cheap, and like he mentioned, he's paying his cost per deal, his all in to complete a transaction is lower than some people's cost to generate one lead. So he's been able to master that through Carrot's team. He's a longtime Carrot guy, and just learning SEO and really dialing in his setup, his lead gen hub, has allowed him to do that and live a really cool life. He's able to travel, duck out in the summers, take some amazing drone footage. I'm gonna have to get that, either your link or where somebody could check that out. That's amazing. But he's got an amazing setup, guys. Amazing team structure.
The one thing, so when a lead comes in, some of the things that I really like about InvestorFuse that I use a lot, and I call them the one-ups. So whether it's, and I use this a lot. So when a call comes in and you work a lead, there's a lot of different scenarios, and the canned follow-up is good, but each scenario is a little bit different. So we've got all these one-ups based on the situation that after we get off the phone with them, we can then quickly send out a text or an email based on the canned one-ups that we've put in there. And you can create those. So there's the sequence that just happens automatically. And then there's what I call the one-ups based on a scenario that you can just hit the button and it goes right out. So that's one of my favorite things, because each one-up is unique to the conversation that you just had. And you can go in there and create them based on all the different situations that happen when you're working a deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of the book Compound Effect, which talks about just small little things that you can do that over time create massive results. In this case, that's a lot of time saved by being able to hit those one-ups, or what we call templates, inside InvestorFuse. For all you guys that are working leads, are going to come across different seller lead scenarios multiple times that you and your team are going to say, okay, if we came across the situation, the seller says this. I brought up Tyler on a call this morning for someone that just signed up for InvestorFuse and showed templates. I go, hey, Tyler Ford has these email templates. He's able to send to sellers just depending on what scenario that they're in or what they said, what was communicated. He's able to shoot that out. It can pull their first name, any custom field. And it's not only going to save time, but it kind of takes the guesswork out of what type of follow-up message that you have to say to somebody. So that's super
especially because a lot of times people will do it the one-ups. They'll go in there and type, whether it's a text or an email. But if you go and set those templates up, it's just a click of a button. It takes you 2 seconds. So you just have to think through all the different scenarios and then create those one-ups based on the situation. Whether it's, you talk to somebody and they're unrealistic in their price. One we have is, unfortunately, we'd love to pay you that, but if we end up buying the property for that, we'd end up losing the money, or losing money. Could you come out of pocket? Like there's one that just says there's no equity in the deal. And it's
not
amazing.
A sequence, right?
No, it's not a sequence.
So by one up, you mean you have all these various templates, and given the scenario, you send it for that scenario, but it's a one-touch thing, not a multi-touch, right?
Correct. So based on it, you have all these situations that happen over and over and over again. So one-ups or the sequence is good, but there's a lot of sequences that might confuse somebody because it doesn't apply
to their situation.
Yeah. So you have all these situations that that are going to come up. So based on the situation that you just had the conversation, you just boom, done, whether it's a text or an email. And it's amazing because it's personalized based on the situation that you just had. And, these situations happen over and over and over again all the time. And if a situation continues to happen, you just create the one up, and it's just a click of a button that takes.
How many one ups do you have, bro?
Probably, I don't know, 10, 15 in the
10,
sequence.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it gives a better. That's a big thing for us. Is it gives a better client experience.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, especially in the competitive market. That's like our biggest goal, especially after my last like collective genius meeting, is that the really focusing on that client experience. Like what is like when they walk through our CRM, like what are they experiencing?
Yeah, because the sequences are good, but sometimes they're not. It's like the sequence comes and it doesn't even relate to the situation, and it can go the other way where, if it's a specific scenario, it's really unique to a certain situation. You can create those, which makes it nice.
Absolutely.
And then for us on the exit strategy, just because again, I'm a licensed agent, so we hotel a lot, and the market's changing, so it's going to change. But in the market that we've had, we've been able to take deals down. We don't wholesale. We take them down. We don't do any major rehab. The other thing, I haven't done a rehab since I joined Carrot. I lived at Home Depot for 20 some years and just decided that Home Depot wasn't for me anymore. So the majority, I'd say the deals that we take down, we do light cleanup and then just list them right back in the MLS, either as a fix up or, whatever it may be. If it's a total rehab, we just put it in as a rehab and price it right. And we're buying them right to just, everything's about turning stuff quick. I mean, we don't hang on to anything. We buy it, we get rid of it, put it in the MLS and sell it off and hotel it, not wholesale it. So, for us, it's about either getting a listing, taking it down, and then immediately light cleanup and put it right back into the MLS.
Very cool. Before we pop over to Brandon to finish kind of like company acquisition intros, I would invite you guys to get creative on your customer experience with sellers. So there was this pizza place in Baltimore before I moved down to Florida. I think it was like And Pizza or maybe something similar to that. But essentially when you bought a pizza, you put your number in or whatever. Their follow-up texts put emojis in there. They do random like days. They hit you on holidays. They let you know specials. They follow up and ask how your pizza was, even if it was like a couple days later. I shared it with some friends. I'm like, this is like amazing. Like if I ever want to get pizza, I'm automatically going with them just for how like structured. And it was sequences, I'm sure, in some type of tech software. But I would encourage as like a side note, get creative, look at other industries, and you can bring that into your, acquisitions for your real estate. And Tyler does that with like one-ups, which we would call templates inside of InvestorFuse, which is really cool. Louis Morales, I see you on here, new InvestorFuse member. And then I am Watson. I have that question locked and loaded when we go to Paul. We're going to do a little intro / breakdown on Brandon's business. And then I got the drip campaign question from I am Watson lined up for Paul here. So Papa P, wrap to us a little bit on what we just covered.
My team's not too dissimilar from the way Jock has his set up. I think the only difference between me and him, and we've talked about it, like what he calls a lead manager versus what I call a follow-up specialist. The way we follow specialists, it's a little unique. So one of the things I like with InvestorFuse, right, is the ability to have groups and then the push to function, meaning I train my acquisition people to be on the phone and to sell. I don't want them worrying about anything else. Their job is not to pick a follow-up sequence. Their job is not to figure out who to assign, a dead lead, an offer too low lead, a realtor lead. That's not their job. Their job is to keep what we call a clean pipeline. Leads coming in, leads going out. Either they're going out as contracts or they're going out into a dead, and dead doesn't mean dead in our business. It means like resurfacing. InvestorFuse is a whole resurfacing campaign. So I don't want our reps to worry at all about what happens to a lead when they get off the call. Their job is to focus on closings within like typically a 3-month time frame. They have the right to keep a lead if it's some, you have those ones where you're really building rapport and you're following up with them for a few months, maybe 4 or 5 months. You want to keep that, but their job is to keep a clean pipeline. And then we use the push to function and then the resurfacing with inside InvestorFuse to resurface those leads back up to a follow-up specialist. And their job is to call or to text using smartphone integration we're integrated with smartphone inside IF3 to then follow up with those people and to do a very similar thing, kind of like what Paul was talking about with direct mail, not so much like a cold reach out, but hey, we have talked already. You have already deemed that we are somebody worthy to have talked to. I am now talking to you again. So that way it's not so much a cold follow-up as it is like, hey, this is our business. You talked to so-and-so before. We just wanted to touch base with you again. We had some time in our schedule. I know. And we use our notes inside InvestorFuse a lot. So it's like, and whatever it is, somebody moving, somebody going through cancer, probate, whatever the situation is, I like it to be very personalized, where the follow-up specialist is keyed in to know they open the notes, read the personal notes from the last acquisition rep, and then they can say, I know the last time you guys weren't interested because you were going through some personal health issues, and it looks like here that that's been a little time, and and so they had some time to check in. Would they consider talking to somebody again right now? And then it doesn't necessarily go back to the same rep. It goes back into our closers bucket or group, and then it's first come, first serve for whoever grabs that lead or opportunity, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not a big fan of automated sequences, although I do like that direct mail idea Paul had. And the other thing I wanted to say, because I just feel like somebody needs to say this.
Please do.
Is all of this stuff is very well and good, and I'm sure Paul has a phenomenal system, highly successful Tyler system and Jock system. If you're just starting out and you just got to make money, none of this stuff matters. Just get on the phone, do it all yourself, dial. You don't need fancy stuff to do it. You just have to put the work in and the effort in, track your talk time, track how many leads you're calling in a day, and just keep that consistency. Save up your money every time you get a deal and then invest that back in. It could be very overwhelming your first year in the business. And when I say starting out, I don't even mean first months. That first year, focus on trying to get to $500,000 or even $1 million, and then really worry about the implementation of all of this stuff and going into all of these different avenues. It could get really overwhelming to try to implement all of this stuff right off the bat. So
100%. Wise words from a very decent man. And there's a few things that you said on there that I'm going to bring up in the group discussion, like the importance of training your team, when to present offers, how you move leads around. But I also agree with the ending sentiment there that if you're more so just starting off, you may not need to have all this stuff in your tool belt. You may just want to focus on revenue generating activities, talking to sellers as much as possible, talking to buyers, getting marketing out there, and tracking to a certain extent how effective that marketing is.
That's all you should be doing.
Yeah.
That's it. Too many people, you can have and ask me how I know, you can have such a thing as an overbuilt system for your performance. And that's not cool. That's not cool. Not at all. You'll go broke real fast.
100%. Well, guys, keep these questions coming. Let's go to I Am Watson. And this is a question for the group, but it's going to lean a little bit towards Mr. DeCampo here. Here's the question for everyone. Do you guys use a copywriter for your drip campaigns, or do you write your own copy and text and emails?
Oh, well, we paid Paul, so.
Paul's the guy on this one. Yeah.
I would say that probably most people write their own. So you won't find copywriters in this business very much. And yeah, I'm a copywriter, and the reason why is because you're going to pay an arm and a leg for that. And not that Jacques paid an arm and a leg for me. I developed a system so it makes it affordable for everybody. But yeah, most copywriters, you're going to find the bulk of copywriters are found in the financial and health niches, and they're charging as little as $5,000 for one thing, or to $50,000 for a VSL. So they're expensive. So yeah, most people I think write their own. But yeah, I don't know if that answer I am Watson's question there.
It does. I Am Watson said, I guess I'm paying Paul.
Yeah,
LOL.
it looks like you got a new client, bro.
Yeah, that's an easy sell.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, to piggyback off what Brand says, like if this is your first year, I wouldn't even worry about the follow up. We follow up is important, but there's the concept. I love the concept of the one thing, right? And so, and I used to think, and I find after 7 years of being an entrepreneur, or even more than that, I finally get the one thing. Everyone thinks it's really simple. Like, oh, okay,
No,
oh, my one task to do, the one thing that makes everything else easier or unnecessary, right? But I'm talking about the book, The One Thing. Right? So if anybody wants to Google that, but finally get it. It's not about just your task list. It's about the overall like one thing in your business. What's the next like leveling up you need to do? And so if you're brand new and you're just looking to get your first deal, that's your one thing, not setting up Podio. I did that in 2015. I thought I need to set up my Podio so all these leads come in and I need to work these leads, and none of that matters. It's just whatever's your one thing you focus on. For Jacques, it was efficiency and getting his team to really dial in on a process that everybody works together, right? So and you can be far from that that road, whatever it is. You have this one thing to worry about, not all these little nuggets you have to do in your daily life. So yeah, so that's my advice for that. And as far as, let me tag on to what, because we're kind of free flowing here, I guess, just chatting it up, but tag on what Jacques mentioned about the CTAs, the multiple options. Multiple options, I know he's referring to offers, but that's the whole concept of marketing, of multiple call to actions too. So I always try. We've been implementing it too, as a Calendly link, putting a Calendly link inside of drip sequences, even right away, because we have call to actions of reply back, call to actions of call back, email back, etc. But also the Calendly is another call to action to add into that component. So personal Loom videos, we add personal Loom videos to things where it makes sense. For my personal businesses, I've always added like a personal Loom video. Not always added, but added personal Loom videos to people who used to. I don't do any more book appointments. Definitely buyers, people who buy from me. Client of mine, I will send a personal Loom video right off the bat, like when I'm on a walk or something. Doesn't have to be anything professional. I just do it with my crappy Android phone, but it sends impact. I think impact is a word that I use a lot, and because I'm trying to create impact in my marketing from the beginning. Digital is nice, 100% digital, where you're just doing text message and email, but I want to create impact from the beginning. What does that mean? That means looking a little different from the other guy. That means sending a personal Loom video. That means sending a thank you card right off the bat. If they book an appointment with me, that's a really great milestone. Like that's how I look at marketing and sales. There's little mini sales we have to make. Jacques mentioned how he looked at, hey, there's a big gap between appointments made, appointments completed. Well, that's a little mini sale we have to make. I don't look at it as, and this is probably advice for newer people, but a lot of people get into the mindset of looking for deals when really you're just looking for a lead. And then when you have that lead, you're looking to book that appointment. When you have that booked appointment, you're looking to make that offer, et cetera. You're moving them down that pipeline. And so you don't get anxiety because they're not a deal yet, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, so a booked appointment is another is a sequence we implement. You put it right in the Calendly. So because you still have to make a sale, they still have to show up to the appointment, right? So I'm a big believer in pre-selling the appointment, building up credibility in that, but introducing the person who's going to be coming to the appointment, introducing the company. They still know who you are. If somebody's coming to my house because they knocked on my door, and an appointment set up for a solar company knocked on my door, they set an appointment for some guys to come out. I have some obstacles up. I have some barriers up, right? So I don't know who these guys are, and so yeah, creating a process. Again, this is all process building, creating a process to help pre-sell that appointment. So
amazing. I love that. Yeah, I mean, personalizing, showing you're a human, showing you're a company, and then also some like future pacing, I believe is the correct term, of like, hey, let's get an appointment. Let's talk about your property, how we can be a fit for you, how we're not a fit for you. If we're a fit, let's do some business together.
I think though, like one thing too that goes to that is also what I said in the beginning, and it goes to quality of the lead. There is a huge difference between a text lead, a cold call lead, and let's say a PPC radio or TV lead, to where when you do implement something like that, your response is going to be completely different, or their willingness to participate in that, in my belief, is going to be completely different versus, and we all know, because anybody starting out or anybody in their first year or so is doing cold call, texting, those types of things. And it's the, well, you called me. Yes, I will talk to you. Yes, I want to sell. Yes, I'm willing to hear your offer. And it's those key words, willing. You called me, like I didn't reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, like in my mind, like when we do stuff, it's all based on that lead marketing channel too, because that tells us the urgency of the person itself and their willingness to participate in something like that as we go through that pipeline. And so that's why we decided we wanted to go more inbound versus outbound lead generation, because we want to implement more of that branding and personal experience. But with those lower quality leads, our response wasn't as good, and we couldn't figure out what it was until I started really looking at the burn rate of our leads and the quality of them. And that's when I said, I think it's just the channel. I think the ideas that we have to move forward don't align with the channel that we have like grown accustomed. I was going to say addicted, but accustomed to, you know, because it's just what we knew and we just went with it. But I think as you want to change those things, you got to also look at your lead generation to see if it matches your future plan, like of where you're going to go.
Yeah, well, and lead, I was going to say really quick, Paul. I mean, the lead quality and type of lead is such a root variable in all the stuff that we're talking about today, follow-up and acquisitions. And I want to hear from Tyler and Jock, and Brandon too, operators. But like inbound leads, and Brady's on the stream too. He's blown the door off of a wholesaling live event talking about this. And Trevor's talked about evergreen marketing and SEO for a while. There's so many benefits to inbound leads. I absolutely love in my day-to-day B2B sales. They're typically shorter time to close, meaning less touches in your InvestorFuse to go through. The level of negotiation skill that you need to have is oftentimes lower. Like, just think about it. If you're cold calling somebody and trying to buy their house at a discount versus somebody that searched you on Google or just found your page, like way easier, less team management, and just less overall time, phone call time, texting time, email texting time.
It's so different. I didn't even recognize it. And listen, this is just my stupidity. I had an SEO lead that came in. We weren't even doing PPC. I don't even know how we asked him. He said he Googled, found it. The house was down by the office. We made like 40, 45K on that assignment. And we closed it in a day. Now, as cold call leads, we're used to like a 3-4 month kind of lead gen time to call to close. And when I started comparing these things, I go, wait a second. That guy just basically said, take my house.
Yeah.
Versus the fight that you have to have on some other stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, the margins are better too, because it's just different quality.
Yeah. And
everybody, go.
Oh, no, you go ahead, Paul.
I was going to just tag on to that and say that almost everybody should be striving for, almost everybody, right? There's different business goals, but almost everybody should be striving for a business that has leads swimming upstream towards them. So having the branding in place, right? But then there's also the incongruency that can take place. So if you don't build your business along with that, when I mean by build your business, I mean the branding, the look, feel, the conversation, the processes, the professionalism along with it, the speed to lead. If you don't build it along with it and you're still stuck in, hey, I'm still texting and I look like the guy down the street, Joe Schmo down the street that shows up in a dirty pickup, there's incongruency from the inbound lead to then getting this guy who the hell is this guy? He showed up in a brown pickup truck. He looked in the overalls. Not saying that doesn't work. I know there's a lot of old school investors that do that, but I'm saying in marketing, congruency matters. And that's a big elephant in the room. And that's something I was going to ask you, Jacques, is if you're using PPL, if you see sometimes incongruency in conversations with people when they go from one brand to 2 years. If they say, I don't know who you are, I called so-and-so, and how you deal with that.
Yeah. So I was actually gonna, that was gonna tie into what I was gonna say. Because I read an article on HubSpot, and they have a really good article. But if you search up customer journey map or stages, So for us, like a big thing is that if you search us up on Google, you'll automatically see 30 5-star reviews. So like that's like the first thing. And I realized because even with outbound marketing, people don't know you. Right. And so I think the biggest thing is that usually people are going to spend that time, especially in today's day and age, they're going to search up your company if you tell them their company name. If you send a random text message linked by your house and they can pull up a Google profile, the likelihood of them writing you off as a scam is very, very high. Now versus now, do they search you up? If you go to our website, you'll see testimonials, you'll see us and stuff like that. You'll see the reviews. Okay, these guys seem a little bit more legit. So like even when we're doing our PPL leads, the first thing we say, hey, we're one of the home buying partners what needs to sell my house fast. Yeah. So that's the first thing we say. We're one of the home buying partners. You can search us up here on Google, or sometimes I'll go ahead and send them our Google profile. Hey, I want you to go read about us first. I want you to go see the reviews. Don't go off of what I'm telling you. Go see what other people have said about us.
Right. Like that.
Right. And I would add, and for people starting off, they don't have that. Obviously, it's like to get to 30, 35 plus, it's hard. And understand that, people do this. People go and ask their friends to get a testimonial and leave one on Google review and all that, which is okay. You got to start somewhere. But if that's all you have, you can tell. Yeah. You can you read those reviews and it's like, okay, that's a canned review right there. So I think everybody should have this as part of their process in their buying, in their closing stage. Is number one is, if you're doing face-to-face closings with people and you're showing up, asking for that video review, right? Yeah. That should be like part of your process. Is like that's like your checklist. Okay, I at least ask. We install an actual sequence for those closed reviews, or closed deals that ask to leave a review. And we're always we're not looking for canned stuff because people like to ask, like, what should I say? It's just really just it's hard to do, but over time you're going to get those nice reviews that really look like, if somebody says something about my business without me asking for it, I'll stop them and say, can I use that as a review? That whatever pain point I'm looking for pain points, from pain point to solution. That's what I'm really looking for. So yeah, that was my spiel on testimonials. Sorry to cut you off, Jacques.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. If we're gonna tie it back into like if you're just starting out, like with no reviews and nothing, I would honestly say because realistically for me, I started out driving for dollars and I was 19 years old when I did this. So like a big hurdle for me was like, okay, how are people gonna take me serious? And I realized what it comes down to was I would always just push for that in-person conversation or even over phones and just be like, okay, like how can I just focus on making sure I build trust with this person? And that's the biggest thing. Like, it's not a rapport. I think rapport is surface level. People get rapport wrong, but you have to be able to gain somebody's trust. That like, hey, like, listen, at the end of the day, I do know what I'm talking about. But at the same time, I'm focused on figuring out, number one, what is your situation? What's the problem that needs to be solved here? And I want to know whether or not if this is even the right path. Like maybe a cash offer doesn't work for you. We literally just had a team meeting this morning where a lady, she was on the phone with our team. One acquisitions, we run over his phone call. She was telling us about like how she just got divorced. She doesn't want to be in a house, like motivated by all means, but she also she doesn't work a job. Her house is paid off. And we were like straight up, like, I'm like, you don't need to start a house. I was like, not in this market. I was like, you're not good. I was like, not in this market. You have no source of income. You have a paid off house. Keep it. Yeah. I'm like, just
keep the house. Keep the house. That PPL thing is interesting, Jock. I feel like we can have a whole conversation. We're gonna have to get you on a podcast and talk about PPL. Carlos knows I have a lot of strong feelings about PPL as somebody who's also used PPL.
Pay per lead for those that don't know.
Especially some of the service providers. And Paul brings up a good point with the branding of those. And you have to say their company name. You have to say the brand, whether it was a Facebook ad or a Google ad. They went to a landing page on a website, and it kind of messes it up. I like the way you did that, where you said you're one of the partners of that company. But some of the problems with the PPLs that I see even with that is they sell the lead to multiple people, and then you have multiple people saying that they're this partner, which then still downgrades your I'm not going to say brand, but your image, right? Your branding image of I'm the guy who could solve your problem because you filled out this one form, but now all of a sudden 5 dudes just called you all within an hour and sent you all these text messages saying you're from blah, blah, blah.com. I'm a partner of them. And then they get confused and they're like,
yeah,
because they don't know these things. They don't understand I'm a buying partner. I'm a marketing partner. And so that's one of my problems with PPL, which is what, though, had led us to the branding change to go all in on our own inbound channels. But yeah, PPL, man, PPL.
I don't know if you can see the comment there, but yeah, Louis, I'm with you on that. I've definitely heard good things from
I have.
LeadZolo.
Carlos has talked up LeadZolo a lot to me because he knows I'm very dissatisfied with who I'm currently using. I think there's some sketchy stuff going on. I'm not going to say their name out loud. But yeah, I've paid for 48-hour holds and only buyer holds and all kinds of stuff. And I have called that lead and they've been like, oh yeah, I just got like a call from another person from this. And and it's like, there's some sketchy stuff on what some of these. So you have to use a paid per lead service that you really trust. And Carlos has really talked up LeadZolo. They also hosted Wholesaling Live. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. They were a sponsor there, provided leads to people to call in the audience, and there were deals being closed there. I have a good question here from the audience. I want Tyler to kick this one off if it's cool with you. As a relative newbie, knowing what you know now, I think he means what would you do different than you did originally for your business?
Are they related? Is this a setup?
It could be.
Well, somebody said it. I keep things super simple, and it's all about the activities of making the phone calls and working leads and not focusing on all the bells and whistles, because there's a lot of shiny objects in this business that can totally distract you from going and getting deals. But if I had to start it from ground zero again, I would go, again, it goes back to the last question. I would go all in on organic SEO and have people chasing you rather than you chasing them. And evergreen market, it's like and I've spent thousands of hours and tons of money putting up bandit signs all over town, but having a well-done website that you put a lot of time and effort into is like a bandit sign that will never, ever, ever disappear.
Yeah,
but you've got to have realistic expectations. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's a 6 to 12 month process. But if it were me, from day one, I would go all in there and just put all my time and effort on evergreen marketing. And back to your question too, when people go to my website, if I look at my website analytics, the most visited second page is the about page, and it's all about credibility. So we spend a lot of time on our about page, making the page really well. So, when they call you, they've got to know, like, and trust you. And the lead is so much easier to work, and they're really receptive. And it's a much easier lead to work than outbound. The inbound leads they're awesome. So my advice is focus on some type of strategy that would create inbound leads where they know, like, and also we do a lot of video marketing too, which does create that credibility. And then we've also got a branding package that we give them in terms of a credibility branding package, and just creating as much credibility with people as we can.
I'm with you, Tyler.
The one thing to add to that is, because I think there'll be an issue though. But I agree. I think you need a hybrid model, because that takes time and quantity of leads don't come. And so as a newbie, you're sitting there, you're eager, you're like, oh my God, like I'm getting one lead a week or one lead a month or whatever it is as it grows. Even if you're doing like a paid inbound channel, lead quantity isn't there. And as a newbie, you can be very anxious. How I started is very similar to how Jock started. Do the inbound, that's cool. Have that going to your cell phone and get out on the street, drive for dollars, knock on doors.
Yeah, I agree. Because if the quantity's not there, whether it's inbound, outbound, the learning curve is a long learning curve. You got to figure out something so you can shorten your learning curve. And the more people you can talk to, whatever it is. And I agree, because I did all those things to learn the business. I did pay-per-click, direct mail, bandit signs. You name it, I did it. And that's how I learned the business. But I also had my real estate license when I was in college, which helped. And so my hybrid model is, being able to wear the agent investor hat and work the hybrid that way. But yeah, I mean, learning the business, if you don't have a ton of leads to work, it makes it more challenging.
I think people grossly underestimate like the amount of behavior you have to do on a weekly basis, right? So tagging on to the hybrid model, also coming up with a actual action plan on a weekly basis, like if and that matches your budget, your time and your money budget, right? So and matches the market demands. If you're in Southern California, like I was years ago, it takes a hell of a lot of mail, a lot of cost. It's a high cost per deal. So you have to expect that, and you're either putting up front that monthly bill or doing something else. And so, but getting back to the weekly action plan, having like an actual, like everybody has goals, and this is my goal setting, and this is true regardless if it's real estate, whatever new entrepreneur venture you're doing. Everybody has goal settings. They want to make $1 million a year, whatever it is, but they don't set a weekly checklist of goals. Like, so if you decide to door knock, a lot of people don't talk about door knocking. I don't know why. I started off door knocking, and I think it's a great way to get
coming back. It's coming back.
That's it, man. People don't talk about it as much.
So when I learned the business living at the steps. I mean, the first probably 10, 15 deals that I bought were all foreclosures. It's a lot of time and effort, and you got to flip a lot of rocks, and you spend a lot of wasted time showing up at the steps, and the deal's canceled or they file bankruptcy. But I mean, literally the first 10 to 15 deals that I took down were foreclosures.
How much are you anticipating it into that coming back, Tyler?
And I keep saying it. I'm not gloom and doom, but They've kept kicking the can down a little bit with foreclosure. Yeah, it's happening, and in short sales too, which I'm excited about as an agent, because we did a lot of short sales back in the days, there's opportunity there as well. Yeah. So this market's going to change, and it's slowly starting to change. So the model, it will change. You've got to be able to ebb and flow and be able to make adjustments as things change.
Mm-hmm. So do you see that one for you, Tyler, real quick on the screen?
Yeah, these guys are definitely related. Thanks, cuz.
I know. I was about to say that. It's a setup, man. He's got friends in the audience asking him questions directly. I didn't know we could do that. I would have had all my VAs asking me questions.
Well, the about page, again, it's got to be personal. I mean, we have emissions, a value about you, a really good photo. I mean, the nice thing about Carrot, it's great, but if your about page is like everybody else's, then you got to spend time. You got to delete that page and do your own page and make it you. So, I mean, it's going to be different for everybody based on your experience, but you got to make it you. And mistake I see a lot of people make, there's no photo. People want to know who they're talking to. So, again, it's got to be personal, missions, values, what you stand for. And I mean, ours isn't super long, but it's longer than most. If you look at, the one that most people have is just all above the fold. But I think my about page is probably, I don't know, a couple thousand words. So it's a long form about page where they can keep reading if they want to.
I was just thinking, like, one of the things I had before, like one of the things I did before, because, and it's kind of piggybacking off of Jock, like when you don't have that experience, you go for that in-person relationship, but they still want something. So I'd be very cautious. And like, if you listen to our podcast, I am huge about the ethics of how this business is done. And so you need to be very cautious of what's on your social media. If you're bragging about, ripping off an old lady and renegotiating her when she doesn't need to, when you don't need to make an extra 15K rip, that's going to be your about me page. Because listen, if you don't have a website, they're either going to go find you online, especially if it's not the old lady. Trust me, the old lady's daughter is going to go find them. Like, you can't believe how many times I have been checked by somebody's kid, and then the old person is told me, well, my daughter went on and found you, and she thinks you know what you're doing. And because our page isn't about like me making money, It's about me solving problems and doing real estate and like my business around real estate. And that's my about me personal, especially when you don't have the money to really build a great website, even though Carrot's a phenomenal pricing. So everyone should be able to get a Carrot website. But even if you don't have that, focus on your brand online. And I'm not saying go make content. I'm just saying watch what you're putting out there, because they will go check, and they will 100%, they won't even pick up the phone, and you won't have a understanding or a reason why. It's because they didn't like what you were posting.
Yeah, I literally had a seller one time literally tell me, she's like, yeah, I'll search up all your social media and everything. She's like,
yeah.
She's like, that's actually one of the reasons why I want to do. She's like, you like going on the journey. Yeah.
You should be including those links on your website, right? You should have them on your Carrot page. And if you don't have a website, just text them. You can find me all over social media. Here's this and this. And if you're active, that will act as social validation to a certain extent.
To add some metrics into that, and if that is a much bigger market that's available to you if you're tapping into the skeptical market, right? So in direct marketing, there's this concept that only 5% of the market are what's called hyper buyers. Well, they don't care what your credibility is. They're so motivated. They're gonna buy with you. They're gonna sell with you, right? That's only 5% of the market, but there's a huge. Everybody else is a lot more skeptical and worried about being scammed, right? So we have to really pay attention to that and build, because you don't, and I have to be careful of this myself, because you don't realize what you actually look like, you know.
Yeah.
So you don't. Yeah, so
you got to think about who your audience is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who your audience. If you're on social media if I want Jock to follow me, right, and to like me, I'm going to be talking about, oh, I'm making all this money, I'm doing this business, I'm so successful. But if I want the old lady to sell me her house and I'm talking, it's a different audience. So my content needs to be different. So you just have to make sure you understand, I think we all know what I'm talking about with the certain people posting certain things and saying certain stuff. Be ethical about it. Know what it's like a job interview. Mm-hmm. You're not going to post you going out on the weekend getting wasted and throwing up, and then you have a job interview. They check your social media. You don't get the job. It's the same concept.
Yeah, I agree. And I think
one of the things that we do in our follow-up sequence in terms of credibility is once we close a deal, we send out a thank you, and then we have the link to BBB and our Google business page, and we tell them if they give us a review on both, we'll give them a $50 Amazon gift card. Amazing. And it's amazing and we just say email us back. The reviews come in, and then we just go onto Amazon and send them a digital $50 gift card.
Bro, that's not a bad
Take notes, guys. Take notes on this call.
I've been taking notes this whole time around this page. I've just been like,
but it works awesome. But credibility and those reviews are everything. So if you do a great job at the end, make sure you send that follow-up and make it easy for them. Because at the beginning we didn't make it easy. Now we have the links. They know exactly where to go.
Yeah.
And for $50, they're all in for an Amazon gift card.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think Paul has some type of copy around that as well, like a happy client. I don't know if it includes the Amazon gift card, but such low-hanging fruit. And I love anything like that once you have the system in place, it's such little input or a little bit of an added process that has the potential of bringing a big reward on the back end.
Mm-hmm. And I was just going to say, just to piggyback off of what Paul said about the skeptical market, like what I was going to say, what Tyler has built out, Tyler, your system works perfectly for outbound marketing. Like where if somebody, like we reach out to somebody and they know nothing about us, if they go and like, let's just say if we were you doing that, and they searched up like Tyler, I'm not sure the name of your company, and they just go to your website and see everything. That's exactly what they talk about as far as the customer success journey, which is where people don't realize that they have a problem, and then they go read about what to do if they have problem tennis or anything, and they go to your website and you're that resource for information for them. Yeah. Like that's just like instant trust without you even having to hop on the phone with them.
You can also have a credibility kit, so that walks them through the process. So if you're making an offer to somebody, one of the things that you could do, we have a credibility kit, which has, again, it's just a PDF document, but it has the process of if you work with us, and I think it's like 10, 11 pages of a PDF, but it's like it goes through, and in there are reviews, there's reviews, but it's the whole process of working with us. What happens after you sign? If you accept the offer, what happens? And so something like that, and it explains the About Me section of that. So if you don't have a website and you don't have the money for that, it doesn't, there you go. Ours is a
so
PDF.
Whether we're showing up in person or via, when we show up in person, we've got our credibility packet that has like everything, mission, values, about, and so if we're in person, we're handing it to them, and if the lead comes in, then it also goes out as a PDF.
I like that. I don't. Ours is a PDF, but I like that little cardstock copy.
Yeah, I mean it's good stuff.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually not bad. I kind of like that. But yeah, again, it's a cheap option. You can do it yourself. You can brand it. There's so many other ways. You don't need to spend a lot of money to do these things. But we also did the credibility kit with the process in it, because we found even as our acquisition reps were explaining things during that process, there were still a lot of questions of that A to Z. What happens after? When do I get my money? When do I give you the keys? All those types of things. So we go ahead and answer all those in our kit.
Amazing. Well, guys, we've been on for about an hour and 15 minutes, but we still have a lot of people on live watching and asking questions. So I still do have, a little bit of topics to hit on here, but feel free to send those questions in. You guys are still on, and you're on with some gentlemen that are nice enough to take time out of their day. Let me throw you up on the single. Let me throw you up on the single cam.
Yeah.
No, throw that up here. You're on solo cam right now.
Am I doing this? My camera's not as good as his, but so you know what I mean? Like, you can provide them options and stuff, and obviously there's just stuff on the back, but every time you're out knocking doors, you just hang that, and it's just there, and it's just so easy when you're doing. But it's obviously this isn't free itself, but there's no postage, there's no mailing, and it just ties in with what Jock was saying. When you just get out there, get on the streets, knock on doors. But the problem is when they're not home, you got to leave them something. The other thing is to put that or what he has inside of a UPS or like a FedEx package. It's something we used to do as realtors back in the day, back during like the foreclosure times and the recession. You could go and pick up, I don't know if they still let you, but you go and pick up those big FedEx envelopes for free at the FedEx thing. And then you just put your letter or your credibility or your thing inside of it, put it up leaning against their door, and you leave. 99% chance they're opening that up versus letting this just fall to the patio and getting blown away in the wind.
And from a tech perspective, what are you throwing on there? Like a tracking number, your Carrot website link, anything else, QR code? What are you throwing on there from I'm seriously from how are you capturing when they try to get you back in touch with you?
Okay, so in 2023, I'm going to go through CallRail and then through my smartphone, which will then drop into my InvestorFuse system. And then what I'll do is I'll have a campaign for driving for dollars or door knocking, whatever that is. So then I'll be able to track that coming from a door hanger or whatever. So I'll have door knocking, door hanger campaign. I'll have a separate caller ID through CallRail. And then obviously it'll ring our smartphone in our closer department or get dropped into our CRM and InvestorFuse, and then it'll get processed and picked up by an acquisition rep. But in full transparency, when I was doing the door knocking, we didn't have such technology. So it was my cell phone. I was trying not to show my cell phone. That's why I was kind of holding it down, but it's my actual cell phone on there from back in the day. So.
I'll take you off solo cam. Awesome, guys. Well, I want to do a little bit of like a fire round just to keep this rolling. And guys, I appreciate everybody that's on here. Feel free to send in any questions. I want to ask a group for the question. Is there a limit to how many follow-up touches you do to a lead until you mark it dead? Or is there like a certain amount of time period that you stop following up with a lead?
Until they tell me to F off or their property sold.
Yeah. For us, since we kind of scaled our team size down, we removed anything that was, I think our standard was 100 and above touches that we've done so far. And but more so of, we just start remarketing. And since we did that, we actually had some leads that were pushed in, but it's crazy because like one lead that we just got under contract last week in the CRM, he came into our CRM back in just November of last year. And we just got to like 100 touches on him. Yeah. And it's funny because we were calling him so much that he finally called me. So like, I'm ready. He's like, I'm ready.
They get to know you after.
DM'd you on Instagram. Hey man, I like the motivational video posted. Let's do a deal. I like you.
But it's true though. Jock's telling the truth, man.
Yeah.
Like when you're following up consistently with them, they start to recognize you. Now it takes a lot of touches to separate yourself, but like I've had that happen, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Brandon." Like,
Marco from Baltimore said, even if they sold, we keep them on a 2-year follow-up because everyone is someone in real estate. I like that. T, any feedback, Tyler, Paul, any feedback on like, is there a point of diminishing returns as far as following up? I love Jock, and I've seen his InvestorFuse where leads have closed after a year and a half of when they first came in. And what was it? I think you had one like multi-hundred touches that,
dude, it was
that
like,
you had mentioned.
what, 300 touches on one lead. I was like, yeah, we
my gosh.
I was like, we gotta remove this one. I was like, we gotta, this is all right. Like, this is for sure a waste of time.
Yeah.
I mean, ours, it varies depending on the lead, but if we know we can't get the listing or there's not a lot of equity in the deal. So if we know we can't get the listing and there's like zero equity, then I usually kick that one to the curb. So it just depends on the deal. But again, I don't know, I shouldn't say this just because people that spend a lot of money on leads, they go at them harder and hang on to every single one because of their cost per lead and cost per deal. And I mean, again, just because of my cost per lead, I truly focus on the low hanging fruit, and I'm good with 1 to 3 deals a month, and that's my model. And that's just the way it is. So I'm probably giving up a lot of profit, just not turning over a ton of rocks. But I mean, we're really after the low hanging fruit with a lot of equity or being able to get the listing.
Yeah, I would say, just like as a caveat to this question, I think a big thing really depends on your team size. Well, team size for one, and then also just making sure, like there's a saying that I have, which is pipeline management. It's actually something I brought up when when I was in the call with some like CG guys and stuff. Because even after our last meeting, you'll be surprised by the amount of guys who are making a lot of money with the simplest businesses.
Yeah.
And so what we focus on is like just make sure that we have proper pipeline management, because it's kind of pointless that if you do a lot of sales training with your team and you know they're highly trained salespeople, but they're spending their time calling leads that don't pick up the phone. Right. It's just, I call it just hustling backwards, to be honest with you. And so like for us, that's why we've been doing that export of those leads, because we want to be able to focus on people who we know for sure are going to pick up the phone, if anything. Even if and at the same time for our process, we've implemented to where, we're doing triple dials to get them on the phone. We have one seller, we called his mom. But that was a little bit of like that. We did piss him off with that one. I'm not gonna lie, because he went ghost on us after he said he's about to sign a contract, but we went and just skip trace his mom to try to get him on the phone. But like when we've had those leads that we know are for sure like motivated, that's when we really focus the majority of our touches on those particular leads.
Awesome. We got a good one internally from the team. My guy Brady, aka Braden.
Hang on, I wanted to hear.
Oh, go ahead.
Into that. Paul was about to. I want to hear from the marketing automation guru what
Sure.
he thinks about a dead lead. He never got a chance.
I felt like
you were going to say. I felt like you were going to say something, and I really want to get your input on it. On what you think.
Was my skin glowing? My skin was glowing.
Yeah.
So words
it's
of
the clock behind you that screams intelligence.
I love this clock. You know what? During a carrot cast, and Brady knows with them, this thing was chiming off during our cast. It was like a ghost took over and started chiming. It was the weirdest thing. It's 100 years old. So anyway, going back to the question. And so I'm going to say a couple things with it, probably 3 things, but I say too much often, so you can stop me. But we have we have a couple case studies of some members, some clients of mine, and 70 is a number I keep seeing. 70 touches. That touches are call attempts, the personal Loom videos, sent emails, SMS, all that jazz. That doesn't mean stop after 70, right? And you can keep going. You keep going. We recycle them back into a sequence of tasks and notifications, or if you want to call it that. But the other thing I'm going to say is a little more contrarian because of what's going on right now with SMS. So yeah, with the whole SMS regulations, now you have to register. You have your EIN number attached. Mm-hmm. And so what that means is it's going to look a lot like email. So with email marketing, email marketing is my bread and butter. That's what I've been doing. I've been sending a daily email since 2017.
I'm on that list.
You're on that list. Oh,
Same.
Cool. And so, and when I say daily email, multiple markets, multiple companies, and so with email, if you start blasting, if you have your email address, your domain, if you start blasting people off, start sending people who never really wanted to be on that list, you don't give them an option to unsubscribe. What you're going to start seeing is your domain reputation, or actually your emails, are going to start going to the gutter, meaning they'll end up in spam. At worst case scenario, best case, you end up in promotion all the time. You can't prevent emails going into promotion folder, not going into promotion folder 100% of the time, but I can say that most of my emails end up in inbox because of the practices I do. I give people the option to unsubscribe. I don't have cold emails on my list, and I make sure people who don't want to be on there aren't going to be on there. So that's what's going to change. I think I'm saying this as, hey, take a warning for everybody. I think that's going to change for SMS as well. SMS numbers, your phone number, your text messaging, is that carriers have the FCC breathing on their neck right now about this. So they have to change things. So the only thing they could really monitor is the engagement you're getting with your number, and spam, particularly the spam complaints. If you're getting a ton of spam complaints because you have a ton of people who don't want to be on that SMS list, you're going to start seeing your SMS deliverables going down. And so one thing I've started doing just recently is, so I stopped installing a non-interested tire kicker sequence for clients because I had to balance things out. It's like, well, where do I balance out sending to people who shouldn't be sent an SMS, like a drip automation text message, and people who should, right? And so I felt like the tire kicker type of leads shouldn't have 3 years sent of text messaging. If they're being sent like 2 years of text messaging and they never respond back, and from the beginning they're tire kickers to begin with, there's probably a good, I have to wonder,
they're
are they
spam you?
So they might have already hit that spam complaint. That's the one thing I want to avoid is I want to avoid getting spam. I want to give them an option to unsubscribe as well, right? So that's the big thing with SMS. We have to now, it has to be the way businesses outside of REI do it, is where you have an opt-in, you have a keyword opt-in, you have the opt-in box opt-in, and then you have the unsubscribe option during that follow-up road. And if you don't have that option for them to unsubscribe, their only perceived option is to hit that spam. So
yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think a lot of what you just said there ties into what I said earlier. It's like, if I'm calling a cold caller and that's how I got that lead, that person, everyone responds differently to different channels. So me putting them on some follow-up text campaign is probably just going to bother them. And it all goes to demographics. So, and with Brady, he said, how deep do you guys go with automation? So with us, I don't do a lot of the sequences. We're all very manual because I do believe in the personal touch. So even with us signing up for that, like I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but verified A2P compliance with smartphone, we got everything approved, but we're on a low volume plan because we don't do automations. My job, and we have never had a smartphone number go spam because we are very meticulous with how we do things because we are only talking to people that have talked to us. And so our text messages also relay information from our notes. So they understand that they have actually talked to us and we're somebody that they deemed important enough to give us enough time to find out certain things. So with our sales team, what happens is we use the resurfacing and IF3 automation. So once a salesperson deads a lead, and again, dead doesn't mean permanent, it just means it goes out of our pipeline, our follow-up specialists take control. So it'll resurface depending on the reason why the acquisition rep doesn't want that lead anymore. Maybe the offer was too low. Maybe it's a retail lead. Maybe the seller decided to keep it. Maybe they're not interested. Whatever it is, we have different rules on when that'll be resurfaced. And what'll happen with IF3 and automation is it'll go into a follow-up specialist group, or what I call a bucket. And then our follow-up specialists will personally call them. So they either, depending on the quantity of leads, but we use the smartphone dialer integration, but you could do click to call. It just takes longer. And then they will also send an individual text through SMS. Again, a very personal kind of text message stating their name and who they're with and letting them know that we had talked and here's some notes and kind of like that. And it's a very one-off text message, very low volume. We're maybe sending, I'm making this up, 20 text messages in a given day. And that's only to the people that the follow-up specialist deems as highly important that we get back a hold of them, like the offer too lows. Yeah. Otherwise, we're in the dialer and we're just powering through dialing. So that's why when I said until a lead either sells or until they tell me to F off, we continue to follow up with them because it's not on my acquisition reps books to worry about. My follow-up specialists, they have one job and one job only, to re-warm up our stale leads, our resurface leads. And so that's how deep we go in, but it's a very personal thing. And then if the follow-up specialist gets back a hold of them and they once again say that they're never going to sell, IF3 has a checkbox that you could say never resurface this opportunity again. And only our follow-up specialists have the ability to check that box. Our acquisition reps don't worry about that stuff at all.
And how's that changed from like solo teams? And Jock, I still want to get an answer from you if you have something in the chamber there. How's that changed from solo operator, like someone on like an essentials plan for InvestorFuse versus having like multiple people touching leads and managing them?
That's what makes it great, is it's not just for solo. So with those rules, as long as if I go on vacation, I don't vacation. So sorry, bro. Like in the office, even when I'm on vacation,
your vacation is going to do due diligence on mobile home parks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's it right there. Is like, it's the way IF3 or InvestorFuse is set up is perfect for either the solo or the team. The group function, the push to and the resurfacing is really keyed in and dialed in for somebody with multiple roles. Like Jock has a lead manager and acquisition reps, where I'm follow-up specialist and acquisition reps. And it works perfectly depending on how you set those flows up for either type of team setup. He does appointments and sets that up. I do seller follow-up calls. Like it's all, but IF3 allows you to build that. So I don't think it's changed much. I think if that answers it correctly, I think InvestorFuse has allowed it to be flexible. So whether you're solo or not, it would be tough though. I would say the quantity of talk time that my follow-up specialists do on follow-up resurfaced lead, I don't know how a solo person would necessarily do that much dialing on a follow-up lead. I mean, they're talking to like 100+ people a day, where our acquisition reps are keyed in between, like, it would be on warm leads between 50 and 70 in a few hours of talk time.
Cool. Those are good metrics there.
Which IF3 also tracks.
Oh yeah, tracks all that stuff. Brady said, "Got it. That makes sense. Also, you should try it. Vacation. It's great."
My life's a vacation, bro.
I like it. It's a good answer.
Vacation.
Jock, anything to add on there? And then I got a few lightning round questions for you guys to wrap this thing up. Thank you to everybody that's been hanging on this whole time. Make sure to touch base, carrot.com, investorfuse.com, and both teams will be happy to chat with you.
Yeah, I would say we're the complete opposite from Brandon. So like our quarterly initiative for this quarter specifically is making sure that our drip campaigns are built to a point to where they're like flawless.
Love that.
And so the reason being for that, my standpoint on it is just that, even with the amount of increased team turnover that we've had from our ISA department specifically, our ISAs will come in, especially because they're on a smart dialer, they'll come and take 200 leads in their name, right? And what happens is like when that person leaves that position, or if we have to let go of that person, those 200 leads that they were managing goes into somebody else's bucket, and then they don't have the bandwidth to even manage that as well. So we were like, okay, how can I make sure? And then also you have to make sure that, they're doing their job, they're having quality conversation. So I was like, okay, how can we take the human element out of making sure that our clients are still being followed, our prospects are still being followed up with? And I was like, okay, well, drip campaigns. That's why for me, because then it gives me more confidence and more security that, because again, we have a lot of leads in our system. Carlos has seen it, right? So I'm like, okay, like we're overstretching our team right now. So like even so, we've even separated that, like which I like the lead score system that IF3 has. So people who are below a lead score of 17 get placed on an automatic drip sequence.
That's a good rule, and that scales on the 0 to 50 for you guys that are listening that don't have lead score set up in InvestorFuse. There's 5 variables that make that up. It's going to be like what you mark motivation, the campaign it came on. So like an inbound lead from Carrot's going to be higher potentially than like a cold calling lead, a few other things. Go ahead, Poppy.
Jock, if you had just a question, right? And I don't have this, but if you were doing TV ads, right, and radio ads or billboards, right, and you spent a lot of money on these leads, would you want to put the human aspect back into it, or will you still stand by and say you want to take the human aspect out and automate the whole thing with drip sequences?
For when they like the first like inbound, because those are all inbound channels, I would want it straight to acquisitions, and then you manage it to a certain period, depending, and obviously like qualify, disqualify.
Yeah. But once you qualify them and they're like, I need another month or two, would you still want either your lead manager or your acquisition rep managing that, or would you follow sequence that with text messages and emails and all of that stuff?
Acquisitions. Yeah.
So you would put the human aspect back in for the quality, so it goes back to like even what Tyler was saying, right? Like when you start spending that money on those things. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious like where your mind was on that.
Yeah, no, because even for like if it's somebody who has a longer timeline, that always still stays in acquisitions. Like our timeline now, we've extended it now to where if they want to sell within the next 6 months, it stays within acquisitions. Just because a lot of it really sometimes comes down to overcome those hurdles. And then since we're novations as well, we have a longer sales cycle anyway. So somebody who's 6 months is actually perfect for us, because that gives us the time that we need to actually
sell it.
Yeah.
That's good awareness right there, knowing what timetable your exit strategy that you're doing is in each one. And then you can kind of categorize, or in InvestorFuse, you can put them into different groups based off of that, have different drip campaigns or sequences. That's a good awareness point to bring up there.
I would also add that, personally, I don't have a huge number of automations. Like if you were to subscribe right now to OmniDrip and or any other businesses I don't have a whole number of automations. And because I don't need to. I think it's a matter of what you need to. If you have a ton of leads that you have to manage, but I will add that you can add drip doesn't mean non-human, right? It doesn't mean that there's it's just all 100% robotic, because you with IF3 you've got you do have email, you have SMS, but you have tasks as well to make a personal text or personal call, which I include, which we we encourage people to include those as well. You have webhooks for direct mail, which I think, again, I know I mentioned it in the beginning. I think that's going to be growing bigger.
I like that.
Yeah. So with Print Genie, you can do. That's what I use. So whenever somebody uses my affiliate link with the Print Genie, they get unlocked my follow-up mailers that go into different sequences. And with IF3, there's so much you can do that, you can have 100% direct mail follow-up campaign if you want. Just these are one-off mailers. So somebody's chugging along, as a lead is chugging along through the pipeline, they come across day 30 and a mailer is sent to them, a thank you card, whatever it is. So with that, and plus with the copy, which you put in there, you could still, you still have the human touch, human element in those drip sequences. So.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like that.
Couple questions to wrap this thing up. This is one for everybody. In what kind of ways recently, we can say this year, in what kind of ways have you lost deals to other investors?
Oh,
why you got to bring up bad shit? I'm trying to stay positive.
Liz, a learning experience for
I'm
everybody
trying to move forward.
yeah,
but it's
honestly,
a learning lesson.
Honestly, we have a couple that like literally was like just like recent, like one where we call the guy's mom. We definitely should have not done that, but we were just checking in. But he's like, "You guys keep on like, listen." But another one was that I can really remember was actually a gentleman. We ran the appointment, made the offer. I would say the biggest thing that we really messed up on was that we didn't bring a contract in person, so we didn't get signed up there because it was hard for us to get him back on the phone. So when he would pick up, and we were like, okay, he said he's ready to sign, he's gonna move forward. We sent over the agreement, and then he's not picking up his phone anymore. And I'm calling him from different phone numbers, so I know it's not like he has it blocked. So I decided to take the initiative 2 days ago to go door knock. I go door knock, and I see there's already a lockbox on the property.
Done. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, somebody else got this, right? So I'm like, okay, well, what did we do wrong? And I'm like, okay, well, we probably should just close them when we were here in person, or I probably should just, like, honestly, just pull up to his house a lot earlier too.
Yeah.
So that was a way that we lost a deal to another investor right there.
Cool. So somebody that's hard to get a hold of. It's almost like for those of you that have played like Pokemon. You got like a rare Pokemon that's hard to catch. You got to make sure that you have a contract there, or you're on like a Zoom meeting going through the contract with them, making sure Penn gets the paper as easily as possible, or they could go with somebody else or, lose out on the deal in some way.
Yeah. And that's actually something that I've really been working on, one of my acquisitions, even as of last week. Cause, like for him, he has the fear of like not pushing them too hard and stuff. But I was telling him, like, listen, like, our job, and this is after I ran an appointment with one of our leads Monday. It was a PPL lead that came in on Sunday. I called her Sunday night. I told her I was coming to the house Monday. And I remember, like, I made sure I brought my contract this time. So even when she gave me the objection of, hey, let me talk it over with my brothers and stuff like that too, I was like, you know what? Here, let's just do this. I was like, let's go talk to your brothers right now. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to leave it up to chance, everything of that nature. I reminded her, Laura, it's like, hey, she's like, I really do want this behind me. I was like, well, let's go ahead and start the process of putting it behind you now. And so I was just reminding him, I'm like, hey, like, listen, when people are saying that they need to think about it and stuff like that, I don't want you to be like pushy, but I do want you to emphasize on making sure that you close them, right then and there.
Very solid advice. Papa P, you got anything?
I got three things. One, the first one, definitely on the follow-up, not, in the past, that's why we've gotten better with it, is just, you've skipped it, you've been lazy, whatever it is, you push it off because you want to call someone else instead, and then you find out someone else did a better follow-up and got it. That's the main one everyone runs into. The second one that really hit was the rapport. When we did the call review, we lost out even though we were a higher dollar amount and the seller told us, because the other person than our rep, the other rep that actually got the deal, made them feel better about the process than our rep did. And when we did the call review, it's not that they didn't follow the process, it was the confidence in their voice, and I'm not going to say stuttering, but maybe like a hesitation before they answered some of the key questions, which probably made them seem like they were not the expert. So even though the process and everything was being followed, it was the tonality, the way they're saying the words that gave off the vibe that maybe this person wasn't the expert, versus the other person who the seller straight up said they made them feel really good. They're $6,000 less, but they made them feel really comfortable about the process. So that was something. And then the other one, the one that was me personally, is sometimes, because I've been doing this business so long, I can actually be a hindrance because I remember what prices used to be and what I personally think homes are worth. And so I know, so we had this old saying in real estate, when a buyer's making an offer, bid the amount that when you get outbid, you won't be pissed off that you didn't get the bid. So basically bid the amount that you're crushing it. Like that's your max amount. And so we lost this deal. And I remember whenever the seller she called me back. She was so sweet. She called me personally back to say, Brandon, I'm going with the other person because they offered me, I think it was like 40K more. 40K more. And then I recomped it, and I was so pissed. I was like, I could have done that. I could have done that. And I just hounded myself because I was so stuck on making a big profit, and also what I felt like this property's worth in its condition. And obviously someone else didn't really give a crap. They were just like, I'm cool making like 10 grand or 20 grand. I was trying to make like a 60 grand profit on the deal. And I was very stuck on what I felt the as is condition was. And I had plenty of room, but like I was a hindrance to that deal, and I should have gotten it. So those are just some lessons. And listen, dude, like it's gonna happen. Like you just got to get out of your own way. Listen, I would have been perfectly fine with a 10K profit, but we all know sometimes greed gets in front of us. And like to the other guy who got that effing deal, sorry, bro, you way overpaid. You could have made like a 40K profit and still beat me. You definitely didn't anchor correctly.
Yeah.
But you know.
Yeah, we had one like just like that 3 weeks ago. Well, about a month ago, where a guy came in, he won 140, all confidence to sell at 165. I told my acquisitions. Guy was ready at 140. Acquisition goes and anchors him at 125. Well, the guy went with another investor.
Yeah. It's a fine line, and I don't think you're wrong, man. Just like I may have been a little greedy, but people, especially newer people who can operate off thinner margins, like they're not anchoring enough because they just want the deal. And I think it's a race to see who makes the least amount of money in a lot of circumstances. And it's like if you anchor, like we all win, but some people are just like, I only need to make 5-10K, like whatever. Maybe it's just lack of knowledge on what the as is or ARV is, and they just misvalue it. But I don't think you're wrong, Jock. I think a good anchor sets expectation, but you can't account for somebody else just going to the top right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
I will say about newer investors, I mentioned new investors anchoring high. I think this is my problem when I started anchoring too low because you hear like, oh, don't offer too high. But when you're brand new, you can creep up your offer a little bit better than others, right? Just for the sake of even getting the deal, for the confidence builder. But I did lose. I lost a deal, not to another investor, but to the renter, and because I was not paying attention to the needs of that person. I was just focused on, and what happened was this is one of my first deals that I was going to get via just Craigslist ads. I had this whole like Craigslist ad campaign back when you can do it. You could post a bunch of Craigslist ads everywhere, and had a guy call me, landlord call me, and I offered, and he owned it free and clear, and I offered, I think it was like 300,000, but $10,000 down, $1,000 a month till it's paid off. There's no interest rate, so it was going to be a smoking deal, and I didn't even see the house yet, so I rolled up to the house. He said, "Oh, and there's renters, by the way." Knocked on the door to see the house, and I said, "Hey, I'm buying the house," basically, and they're just drawn back about it. They're just like, "Well, we wanted to buy this house, but we have no credit," and so then it became just a battle right there between him and I, and I didn't know, when you come to those situations, if you're not quick enough, and if you're just thinking about yourself, I mean, I could have walked away from that to solving the problem. And the problem was that we have party A needs to sell and party C wants to buy. I could have created that merger there with a wrap. But I just was too blinded by I need to get the renters out and get that deal. Right. So, before I forget, when that happens, anybody, the deal's not done, right? So keep them in, don't mark them as dead, keep them, create a process or even like a drip sequence. We create drip sequence for that. Even a drip sequence that hits them up at, 30 days from now.
No, that's a good point.
Fall out.
They don't close, man. Like sometimes, especially if you get outbid like a lot, I mean, you got to follow up with them. We've gotten deals back that way where the person doesn't close. So we don't dead them out. We actually have a separate what do you call it? Status group? Yeah,
status?
no, I was going to say status, but opportunity lost reason, as in opportunity lost sold to another investor, and then that gets followed up within a different time. So our rep will actually keep that. But and then Peter said I should have offered them creative like seller finance or sub 2. Listen, I don't really want to get into this, but like Carlos knows, I think sub 2 is a very good advanced real estate strategy that gets misrepresented and misused, and there's a lot of pitfalls in sub 2, and I don't think it's great for everybody. I think it is a very good advanced real estate strategy to use, but just offering it for the sake of offering it, I'm not a big fan of. There's a lot of nuances inside of that, and I know that's definitely not the thought process in today's industry based on the people representing sub 2, but I think there's going to be some huge problems with everyone just willy-nilly offering sub 2 and then trying to wholesale it, not knowing who the person is. And this is somebody, listen, I was here during the last recession. I've been doing this for a long time, and I heard the horror stories of it. And if you have a lot of money and you can make those payments and you can buy a deal with no equity, that's fine. But let's be honest, buying a deal with no equity, no matter the strategy, is never a good thing. And I know that's what a lot of people are saying. I do agree, Peter, deal depending. Now, seller finance, I'm all over seller finance. That's how I buy my mobile home parks. So I structure seller finance deals all the time on mobile home parks. But
love it. Let's move towards putting a bow on this thing, guys. We're getting close to 2 hours here. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody that's been on. Appreciate
I'll go
the
4 hours. Jock's ready. He's been drinking tea the whole time.
Yeah, and that's a caffeine pill too. So
yeah, boom. He's ready to go. He's ready to go.
Cool, guys. Well, let's end on this. Let me know your best piece of advice heading into 2024, something acquisitions, team management focused, and then what's the best place to reach out to you guys or follow you guys on social?
So I would say best piece of advice, Jesus. Realistic is number one. If you're gonna hire for any roles, just like slow down and really be intentional. We've revamped our entire hiring process. Dude, I've made so many bad hires, so many. And they were all rushed. They were all rushed. Every single one was always rushed. So that's number one. Number two, I would just say, just always the big thing I've always been guilty of is overcomplicating the business. But like I said, the most profitable businesses I've seen in Collective Genius, these guys, I mean, like millions, and their business is so simple. Like they didn't focus on overcomplicating. They just focus on perfecting it. That's just the biggest thing. So that's the thing that we're focusing on, is just making sure that we have the right team members, keeping everything simple. If you're in one position, going down to like our ISAs, your job is to sell appointments. Acquisition, your job is to sell, like, get contracts. Right, I don't need you doing transaction coordination. I don't need you doing any of that nature. We just make sure that everybody's in their right respective role and just kept it simple. And honestly, that helps even with our team right now. The people are just more happier now because in the past I've made it complex for them, and it hurts their morale too when the business gets too complicated and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
love it.
Right. Are you putting this comment up so we could comment on this insanity?
Yeah, how do you get rid of this thing? It's just in front of my screen there. There we go.
Gotcha. I didn't know that your guys' perspective.
Midterm rental, like, I don't know how I'm going to respond to this. It's like, one, I'm not taking a deal down for a very sub niche. There's so many things. It goes back to what Paul was saying. There's a one thing. I focus, if I'm trying to buy and wholesale 1,000 different types of deals, you're never going to make money. If you want my advice, focus on something. Everyone's pitching. I think there's going to be a shit ton of problems with the short-term rentals that don't cash flow out as long-term rentals. But yeah, like, anything's anything. If you want it to be anything, you can make anything you want. If you think it up in your head, your imagination is only the limit of what a deal could be. There is one more fiction written in Microsoft Excel than in Microsoft Word, because anything looks good when you make the numbers how you want the numbers to be. It's just a midterm rental, group home, ALF. If you want a fucking sub 2 seller finance, like, yeah, dude, all that shit's possible, but I just focus on what I focus on, and that's how I make money, and that's how I've been around 13 years doing it. And like Jock said, they're focusing on their thing. Paul, exactly the same thing. Your one thing, find out what you're good at and do that. One of the mistakes I made early on was and it was like, even as an agent, I was so bad. Do you do commercial? Yeah, I do commercial. Will you list land? Yeah, I'll list land. Do you do residential? Yeah, I'll do that. Are you doing rentals? Yeah, I'm doing that too. And you know what? Like, and I made money, but never as much. And there was a guy who told me the same thing. He was an old guy, and he was like very, very old. He was like 80 some years old. And he said the same thing when he was in real estate. His one problem was that he never focused on one thing. There's so many ways to make money in real estate, and his biggest regret of why he didn't feel he was successful is because he tried to do so much, and I was too young to understand and respect that. And then now that I'm 38 and I've been doing this so long, I finally understand, and I've only finally understood because I've paid the dues of failure to understand that. So just find your thing and just make money doing it, man. Like, just make money doing that. Whether you want to do, I love what Jock's saying. He's going in on novations, bro. I think that's the ticket. I also love what Tyler's saying, wholetailing. I love it all. Can I do every single thing and then buy mobile home parks and then wholesale to cash buyers and then get deals off the MLS? Is all that possible? It is, if you do one thing at a time, scale it, implement it like a private equity company does, put somebody in charge of it, go build the next thing, do that. And if you do that systematically, then all those things are possible. But too many people follow too many people on Instagram, see what everybody's doing, and they want to implement all of it. And so they think every deal can be every type of thing. And then they're wasting their time trying to dispo these niche deals to people. Yeah. I think you could just be great at one thing and be great at it. And that's my conviction for that. And I don't know the rest of the question that you said, Carlos. So
that was it. Just best advice and where to follow you. We'll have Peter.
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Realovative, or just type my name in. And I post real shit. Like I fail all the fucking time. So if you look at my shit, sorry, I'm swearing, but if you look at my stuff, you will see the producer take that out. The customer out. Producer take that out. You'll see that there's a lot of deals I've been beat out. Like I post it, like I lost this deal, like my parks and stuff. Like I've lost land deals, partners backing out of stuff, and I post it all because it all happens. So.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I was going to say, Peter, definitely give Brandon a follow. We do a live show on Friday. I've had Paul on my podcast on previously, but we definitely need to get Jock and Tyler on for some Friday live shows as well. So follow Brandon on Instagram or social to connect with him as well.
Peter put down there that his one thing is that's his focus as a new sub-2. Bro, if I misunderstood and that's your focus, then go all in on that, man. Do nothing else but build your list of people who are qualified and skilled to buy sub-2. Even seller finance stuff, there's a huge relationship with those sellers that are built on creative finance, and you got to hand that deal off to the right person. And if you're focusing on that and you're like reverse wholesaling, basically. So.
Yeah, and I agree. So I agree with Brandon wholeheartedly, especially with all those, like, people try to do too many exit strategies. Those are all different business models. That's what it comes down to. Like, because if you do seller financing,
they are. Yeah.
If you do seller financing, once you get past 4, you have to get the Dodd-Frank Act trigger. So you have to get somebody with a mortgage license to originate your loans at that point, right? So like those are literally, or you need a property.
Most people don't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Now you're talking about getting in trouble like the federal government at that point. You say you're originating mortgages without a license. Same thing with novations and wholesale. But finding cash buyers and doing novations, 2 different business models.
Completely different.
And I will say on this that I think a lot of people mix, going back to the old rich dad poor dad concepts of that quadrant, cash flow quadrant. I think a lot of people mix up business and investing. So if you're doing sub-2 and creative finance to buy a couple of holds for yourself, that's your investing model. Great. But then you have the business model, which I think all of us are here to talk about business operators and to building business operations. So make sure, understand which route you're going to go in. I mean, you may not even want to build a business, and you're just want to buy a few houses. There's the great book, John Schwab building wealth one house at a time. He's talking about buying one house every year, every 2 years for wealth. That's his investment strategy, right? Then you have your business strategy, which is what we're talking about here. So make sure everybody listening that you
and if
separate
they integrate, but if the skill sets integrate, right?
Yes, and that's a great thing about being an REI operator is you can easily go find your own deals, right? And because you
structure your own seller finance terms. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm just throwing, because a lot of people get passive income and active income all mixed up together, and your business strategy and your investing strategy all mixed up together. So separate it. Focus on what you're actually doing. Focus on what you want to do. Actually, your end goal to all that. So.
Yeah, start at the God. That was a book too. Start with the end in mind, and I feel like Carlos, you recommend.
There's like a pencil on the cover.
Yeah. But I read that book, and I've read this like 3 or 4 times. My old mentor gave it to me, Good to Great. This was like a decade ago, and I didn't respect it until last year, or maybe 2 years ago, but until a year or 2 ago, and I reread it, and I really thought about what I was doing and where I wanted to go and what I was really great at versus what I was trying to do because I like money, and versus what I saw my end game at. And then I kind of reverse engineered, and that's how I redid stuff, and you just focus. So.
Amazing, guys. I know we're at 4 Eastern. We're on for 2 hours. It's amazing. But we have 2 or 3. We have 2 or 3 questions that came in last minute. Are you guys all good on time?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, cool. So this was asked twice. I want to show this one first. Let me know how you do this. How do you deal with buyers who try to contact your sellers directly and cut you out as a wholesaler? Man, that was the worst when that would happen. Does that happen? I think that happens to probably most people, or at least has happened. How do you guys deal with that?
I mean, honestly, like I haven't had it. He didn't try to cut us out, but he reached out to the seller, which was a red flag to us. And I'm the type of personality to kind of confront somebody. So I mean, I called him directly and just let him know, like, number one, if you're ever going to do business with us again, that's never, like, don't ever cross that line with us. Mm-hmm. And then just kind of like one of those things where, like, we just, if they do cut us out, then, I mean, honestly, we kind of just blacklist them and like let other people know in the community as well.
Yeah.
That's like, honestly, like what I've learned in business, like realistically, is that, like, I'm not gonna say that you have to be assertive in business. That's just how it is in the business world. And people sense that you don't have a backbone, they're going to run over you. That's just kind of like what I've learned. Even like, it's not that you're overly aggressive or anything of that nature, but just making sure that people understand that your business operates within certain guidelines. And if you cross those guidelines or boundaries, there's repercussions as far as you'll get blacklisted. We don't do business with, and just letting people know that too.
So we've had this happen. So it's a few key things, actionable items. One is being very transparent with your seller, which is one of the reasons why I'm sure Jock is going to Ovations and why I went in that direction as well, where you're just being very upfront with what you're doing. So there is no going behind my back. Everything's out in the open. But you could do the same thing on a wholesale. We had it happen in Orlando. I was JVing a deal out there with the Casada brothers. Phenomenal guys out there. If you ever got a dispo deal in Central Florida, go to them. Quick cash offer. Shout out to them. But and we had it where as soon as it went live, right, like I had the seller calling me. They had agents and buyers reaching out because they reverse skip trace, the deal. Yeah. And we're calling them and stuff. And what you could do is you can blacklist them. You let everyone in the community know and you blacklist, but then you talk to the seller and just let them know what's going on and that your terms are still the same and that you're still buying it. The other thing, and you need to check with an attorney and make sure your contracts are legitimate and make sure you're actually able to take the deal down before you file a notice. Don't just be filing notices just because you feel like somebody told you to do that. Make sure you actually have a good deal and you're willing to buy that deal and actually able to perform. And we actually had that just happen where, and the buyer, me and the seller backed out of a deal and then tried selling it to somebody else, and title called me and I worked out a deal with, it actually happened twice in the last couple months. And I now worked out a deal with the new buyer, and that's that. But I was ready to close on it. And same thing happened the other month. And I actually convinced the seller to come back and sell it to me because I was ready to perform and close on point. So those are some different things. And the final thing that you could do, final two things is always have somebody at the appointment. Never let them talk to the seller. Make sure you always, it costs money, but make sure you pay a runner to go and have a good runner. Make sure you're working with the same person in that market over and over again. Don't just hire some willy-nilly guy because it's your first one. Maybe you have to, but try to use the same people over and over. And then when you do that, after you do that, you start to have very good buyers. And once you have quality buyers that buy from you, they are more concerned about their relationship with you than saving the 20 grand on the deal because they want the deal. I know even on my mobile home park stuff that I buy for myself, I don't care what I pay you if you're getting me the deal, and I am not going around you because I care more about building my portfolio than I do on saving fit. And on mobile home parks, they're much bigger assignments, 6-figure deals. So like 6-figure assignments, and I don't mind, but that's the relationship that's been built. So relationships, memos, if they're legally able to be put on there, talk to your attorney, always have a runner there, build a good rapport with the seller and be upfront with them, and then blacklist people.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right, I have one. This may be Paul. I'm curious if you have something REI OmniDrip related, or if you gents have something.
Bro, but Peter had a good response too.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
make him understand.
Bro, I say that I use the seminar line. Yeah, there was a seminar over the weekend. I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls. Yeah. There are probably a lot of newbies.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And does anybody have a credibility kit here that's shareable? I don't know if that's REI OmniDrip or.
I mean,
what do you mean? What does he mean by? I think. What does he mean by credibility kit? I mean, I can hook them up with somebody who builds a credibility packet. You hand off to sellers. I mean, there's people that do that, to do design logos and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Or Brandon, they can message you.
If you want to follow me on Instagram, subscribe to our podcast, shoot me a screenshot of that. I will be more than happy to give you what I have for free. I don't really care. Party it up, copy it yourself, steal the shit. Whatever you want to do.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Anything else last minute here for these fine gents, Paul, Jock, and Brandon? If not, we'll wrap this thing up and maybe we'll do something similar in the near future for you guys.
Hey, can I say one last thing though?
Please, absolutely.
I don't know about these guys, but like one of the biggest things, and I'm sure all of these people already are, but like the biggest game changer for me was InvestorFuse getting off of Podio. So I can't speak highly enough to that, to the way my teams run and all of my stuff. Get off of Podio if you're on Podio and purchase IF3. So that was it.
Wow,
that was
wise
huge.
words from a very decent man.
That's a huge thing.
I agree.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, nothing's coming in. Really appreciate everybody. Some people have been on here for over 2 hours, and a ton of people will be watching this replay. So whether you're watching it live right now or checking this out on a replay with dinner or watching this in the office with your team, we had some big investors. Sergio, it's his birthday today. I wanted to give him a shout out. He's out of Arizona doing a ton of deals. This is somebody that's like, doing 20, 30 plus deals a month probably. And he said, no questions, but great stuff. Lots of great notes. I think I pointed out individual things from each of the panelists. Like, hey, listen to this again, take a note, experiment with some of this stuff, see how it works for you guys. And you can kind of make educated guesses on how you can make adjustments to your acquisitions process, how your team's talking to leads, everything like that. And we could keep going. It's easy with some great panelists on here. So appreciate you guys taking 2 hours out of your day. I know you guys all manage teams and stuff. So I really, really appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it. We learned a lot. Chelsea literally just messaged me and my assistant. She said, man, I'm pissed off. She's like, we have a ton of things to start implementing.
I got notes, man. I got notes. I was taking notes myself.
Awesome. Well, yeah, shout out Chelsea and team. Thank you guys so much. For panelists, remember, hang on for about 30 seconds just so we have this stream as clean as possible for everybody else watching the replay. Have a fantastic rest of your day, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.